is the Practical Prayer Podcast on New Thought Media Network. And it's Bill here and Carol there, and here we are. And we record the podcast here in the live studio session on New Thought Media Network. And you guys get to listen in and participate along and make comments as might be appropriate or not. You're seeing the light over there.
Yeah, it's flashing.
Okay, and then
I don't know how it's
going again.
Yeah, that spirit saying it's here.
It's something.
It's here. It's here.
It's something. So, if you have a question or comment or prayer request, you can put it in the comments on your social media. If you're watching live, if you're watching the recording, then you can go and put it into the website. There's a section on the Practical Prayer Podcast at bethelight.com, be-the-light.com, like it says right down there.
You changed the color.
I didn't change it back. Yeah. So and the font is bigger and everything is different. Anyway, you are welcome to do that, and we are delighted to have you here in person or recorded. And the year is underway to the point where have people stopped saying Happy New Year to you yet?
Yeah. I think according to etiquette, I think you have like till the 15th.
Okay.
So, that's it. Happy New Year. It's done. Well, this is the 13th, so we got 2 days left.
Got a couple more days. I saw a very cynical ad from, and I think a little bit inaccurate, from Apple. Like touting the Apple Watch. They called the second Friday in January Quitter's Day, which is where people give up on their New Year's resolutions.
The second Friday, let me see, what would that have been? One, that would be almost what, the 10th?
Either the 10th or the 17th. I think it'd be the 17th because the first Friday was right after New Year's, so people were still in the afterglow and didn't realize it. But
it's not much past the 17th, though, right?
Yeah, but I think I'm not sure about everybody's New Year's resolution. The way that I evaluate it is the number of people who show up at the gym. Because the gym generally
that's it. That's it right there.
Yeah, I mean the gym thins out by Valentine's Day.
Or
Super Bowl Sunday, depending on how you approach it. They're both about the same time. And Quitter's Day would be a month early, which I don't think is accurate. I think that people are still lying to themselves.
I'm trying to run ahead, try to do things in advance so I feel like, okay, I'm still in the game here. I'm still good.
Yeah. Well, I stopped overeating on the 26th of December because I knew it was coming. And it wasn't a New Year's resolution. It's like, okay, that's enough holiday cookies. Yes, there are still some more. I can be involved in the cleanup program, but I'm not gonna.
Okay. Well, good for you.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about time release miracles, I think is what you were.
Yeah, you could. Well, we think of miracles as being instant, like what happens in the moment. You're looking for $500, and it shows up. Then you really need it, and it shows up this afternoon, and that's a miracle because you didn't see where it came from. But is it the culmination of things that have been put in place over time?
Yeah, because when the $500 shows up in the mail, it didn't materialize in the mail. Somebody actually thought about it and wrote a check and put it in, put a stamp on it and let the Postal Service have their way to get it into the mailbox. So even before you wanted the $500 or knew you needed the $500, it was on the way. Interesting. Or you could wait for the Postal Service. There may just be that delay before the check shows up. You set the intention.
Depending, I think it depends. I'm thinking it depends on the origin of the miracle. That's what I'm thinking of.
All right.
It doesn't have to be something that you asked for, but I don't want to do all my stuff now. Then I won't have anything to say during the broadcast.
Well, in that case, let's start the Practical Prayer Podcast, and we can continue along with this.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
We were talking about miracles a few episodes back, and that got you thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, it did, because there's a thought that everything is a miracle. I think we talked about that the last time. We said everything
either
is
everything
a
is a
miracle.
miracle or nothing is a miracle.
Or nothing's a miracle, yeah. And I
we're
gave
going with
that
everything. Yeah.
And so just because you push the button off doesn't mean I'm stuck. But I was thinking about, and I'm going to tell you who probably pushed this in my head. I'm not sure though. When a miracle happens, it doesn't mean that it just happened when you thought about that you needed it. Mm-hmm. It could have been in the works 20 years ago, or some such thing. And I'm thinking about something in particular in my own situation. I'm not saying I experienced any particular miracle, but I think if I probably would say, if certain things happen within a reasonable amount of time, it doesn't have to be an abracadabra for me. But if it happened in a reasonable amount of time and I didn't see it and I didn't see all the moving parts and everything, I would say, this is a miracle. Mm-hmm. But is it a miracle because it happened and I didn't see the moving parts and I didn't have anything to do with it, or maybe I wasn't expecting it at the moment? Or, I'm going to call my friend's name, Neville Goddard, Mm-hmm. He's not the only one. He just puts things in a sassy way. So he says, you see the vision, the end from the beginning. And God, this is the part that I really like. God builds the bridge of incidents and things will happen, component parts will be put together and all of that. We don't think about all those moving parts. We just think about what we want. And then when it happens, you think, it's a miracle. Is it, or was it happening all the time? We think miracles are something that happens on the spot. Like, I need $50. I really need this $50. And then you look somewhere and you walk and there's $50. Yeah. Or you're walking down the street and there's $50 blows at you. I don't know. That's probably not a good comparison, but yeah, yeah. And I think you could use the same thing with prayer. The manifestation of something doesn't mean that it happened when you just asked for it. It could be something that's been in the making for a while and you forgot that it was something that you spoke about.
Yep. And there are actually a couple of ways to approach this. And one has to do with the multiverse. So I'm going to skip that one because it gets too complicated. But when we pray for something specific, like I'm praying for $50 this afternoon from Joey, that puts so many restrictions on the universe, because maybe Joey doesn't have the $50, or maybe Joey and there's not a headspace to give it up. So when we take Joey out of the equation, then it's $50 this afternoon, and now there's a whole lot more flexibility for how that's going to happen. Might be Joey, might not. if it's $50, it doesn't have to be this afternoon. I just am in desiring $50. Then again, there's much more flexibility in how that's going to come about. And when the prayer intention or mindset is about prosperity and plenty of money to pay the bills, and I noticed today that it's $50 that's required, then that puts us in a much bigger picture. Because, yeah, the $50 might have been on its way to you for a long time. And I think that the way those prayers get answered tend to look a lot like happy coincidences. Like, oh, I've been praying for that, and then suddenly this showed up in my life. And that's the answer to the prayer. And there's a much bigger story going on. There's a lot of complexity that's involved. Yeah. You know,
And
I want that wonderful, loving relationship. And it turns out that the person the relationship is with is going to be somebody, you know, you're going to be introduced by somebody who you met 20 years ago. Well, that coincidence started 20 years ago.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And you forgot, right? You forgot
or thought or ignored the chain of events that happened. Like, oh, this wonderful person showed up at my birthday party with my old friend. Who would not have been here at my birthday party if they weren't friends with my friend.
So it's maybe I labeled it incorrectly because when I'm thinking about it, maybe it's not a miracle, doesn't belong in that category. It belongs in the category of answered prayer, perhaps.
Okay.
Would you say?
Potato, potato.
You think?
Either everything's a miracle or nothing's a miracle. And and an answered prayer is just a miracle with a label.
Okay.
Maybe we should have done the multiverse instead.
Yeah, maybe. We'll put that on the list. But yeah, but I still I think that even if we switch it over to prayer, which might be a good thing, nice thing, I think it's a lot worth thinking about because I'm thinking about something that I was doing in 2007. I was on a cruise in I think it was 2003, something like that. And I was reading a book and it was talking about internet and all this business and things that were possible. At that time it was just kind of thoughts. And I'm reading it and it really didn't make sense because I didn't have a frame of reference, right? And you're a technology person, so it might have made sense to you, but I'm looking at this thinking, all right, let's see what happens. And then in 2007, I was doing just that, like the framework of it. And I thought, okay, well, this is good. Now here, fast forward to 2025. And I was talking to a friend the other day and I realized like the clothes are on the mannequin now, it was, and I thought it was back. This is not a miracle. The person was surprised at things that I'm talking about. And I'm thinking, no, I don't think so. I think that spirit doesn't make things up as we go. It just comes to our attention.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
I think so.
Yeah, because if I look at the bridge of incidents, as I'm going across the bridge, none of it made sense. The breadcrumbs only make sense, or you connect the dots only after you look backwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm looking backwards. That's not really a miracle. I think that's a slow unfolding
Right.
prayer. So for that, I'm thinking we should not be discouraged easily when the thing prayed for doesn't happen, like in the next 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. And I mean, as I was saying before, the more abstract our desires are expressed in prayer, the more latitude there is for them to come into our experience. So even if we set the tone in our consciousness, and this is something that happens to me a lot, because I'm not real good at keeping in touch with people, but there is a remarkable coincidence that happens when I've been thinking about somebody for a while, they'll reach out to me. They'll call, they'll email, they'll drop back into my life, even if they haven't been around for a year or a decade. I just started teaching this new class, and two old friends who I have not been around with for a decade registered for the class. Like, oh, cool. I get to see them again.
Those, I think that I'm starting to see the connectiveness or interconnectiveness of so many things that now I don't wish and hope as much. I just kind of wait for the thing to happen, or or this piece that happens. I think, well, I'm waiting for the next part. When I was pastoring, I always felt this way from the very beginning. When somebody joined the church, I looked at them, and it really didn't matter to me the reason that they joined. I looked at them as a gift, because I thought about, I wonder what they're bringing to us. And it was, to me, it was, see, I think everybody has something special, that God thing, God spark, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if you happen to come into my space, I'm thinking it must be for me. Or the collective, whatever it is. And I don't think that I've ever missed it. I never missed. I think everybody brings something. So that's the way I look at it. You are a gift. And is it a miracle that you showed up? Or are you a part of the picture that's being created?
People walk into my spiritual community, and they might be a gift, and they might be a learning opportunity. They might be both. But yeah, there they are, and they're there for a reason, and they're a divine expression of the infinite. And let's jump in and find out why.
Yeah. It's because I remember one time I questioned it. And the person was talking to me, and they were making all kind of swelling promises. And I'm looking and thinking, I said, let's go outside, because I didn't want to say what I was thinking inside. Like, I didn't want to, these are the old days, right?
Right.
I'm thinking, you are lying right through your teeth, right? But I didn't want to have that thought in the sanctuary. So I said, let's go outside. And I just knew. So and I was right. So I'm thinking, well, what the heck was that for? Those things happen they have their reasons. People, though, every gift isn't, well, it may come gift wrapped, but it's not always something you would have selected yourself.
Emma Curtis Hopkins, the teacher of teachers, my favorite saying from her is, this too is good, this too is God, this too is for me now, and I demand to see the blessing in it. Because sometimes that blessing is really, really craftily hidden. Yeah. When you adjust, or no, not even adjust, open your mind to things may come differently than you expect at a different time. But it's coming, I think. It's coming. So if this is not the ticket right here, it might be a down payment on it or something. I don't know. Like, I don't think prayers are wasted. I don't think they just go out into the blue and never show up again. Yeah, and the prayers that are answered are the ones where we are setting a clear intention for something positive or life-affirming in consciousness. And as we cultivate that consciousness of life-affirming goodness, it increases the tendency of things to show up in our lives. And sometimes it's something we specifically prayed for, and sometimes it's just that tendency for those sorts of things or those sorts of feelings to come up for us. And either way, great.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that, because we're growing. Okay, so you have a spiritual center, and a lot of things are going on in your spiritual center and in your world of work. But a big part of it as I experience it, is like helping people with their spiritual growth, right? So when something comes, or the prayer, for example, it took me a long time, really long time, to unravel practical prayer in my head,
Right.
right? I was really outdone when I was in the class and I had to do one, but I wasn't like with it,
Right.
but I had to do this prayer. So I did the prayer. So let's say a person at 20, they don't know all the magical parts of the prayer. They only know, they're coming from a different tradition across the street, a different tradition. And they have this thing in their mind. Now, can you say over time, as they develop in consciousness, the way you just expressed it, can the prayer be cultivated as they grow? Because it's not
absolutely.
just dumped because they didn't say it right, correct?
No, it has nothing to do with the words that we use. It has to do with what we believe. So somebody who comes in believing that good things are going to happen to them, they're going to live a prosperous life, will tend to. And the thoughts of doubt, oh my God, here it comes again, this always happens to me. There it comes again. And it's going to come again and again and again until that particular belief gets cleared out. So the process is always working. If this is a creative principle, then it's always working whether we're aware of it or not. So as we learn that we're using a principle, we get better at it, and we can become more intentional about it. And we go through that cycle where we say, oh, this is working, let me keep working it. And let the tendency for the good things to happen continue to unfold. Man, there's a lot of stuff to talk about here. Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a break, and we're going to continue with that.
Okay.
Get inspiration in an instant. God calls are the gentle and uplifting moment of truth to help you remember that the bright light of God's love is shining right now as you.
It's your God Call with Reverend Bill.
Start your 2-week free trial today, and you'll get a phone call 4 times a week from Reverend Bill with an uplifting half-minute message filled with insight, wisdom, story, and fun.
Let your light shine.
You can answer the call to listen to it live or let it go to voicemail so you can hear it later. After the free trial, your subscription is just $5.95 a month. The details are at godcall.org. God calls are disruptive, intentionally.
Whenever you write something, put on a gold star.
They take you away from your routine to remind you about the truth of who you really are. They come at random times between 8:15 a.m. and 6 p.m., so you won't be expecting them. And somehow, the message is exactly what you need to hear at the time.
Magic is loose in the world.
It's a moment of motivation in the middle of your day. Find out more and start your 2-week free trial now at godcall.org.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
And I made you hold your thought.
Okay.
So
you
it's
can't be
yours.
doing, you can't do that often, right? Because I'm
No.
like not 30, the thought just might go.
That's why I told you I was going to bring it back up again. So I figured that you could use a pen.
Which I did.
There you go.
I know what's going on these days. Okay, so growth is happening, and let's say spirit is very patient with our growth when the principles aren't properly aligned, I guess, or even understood. And I thought about it because I hadn't spent time with Ernest Holmes in a bit. So I did today. And I thought, you know what? This little piece right here, now this makes a little more sense. Okay. And then I went on, and I remember that in the beginning, way back, I would just listen to Ernest Holmes just constantly. But sometimes maybe experience has to get in it or something. Like it doesn't cook until it cooks.
Yeah.
I know.
So, and this is Ernest Holmes stuff that you had read or heard before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Ernest Holmes didn't change anything.
Yeah.
since the last time you heard it. So the changes, as you have pointed out, the changes in you. So when the student is ready, the
Yeah.
teacher will appear, even if the teacher's been there. When the student is
Mm-hmm.
ready, oh, there's something for me to learn.
Yeah, I'm thinking, oh yeah, okay, all right. I see that. Although the language he uses is different, the principles are the same. And so
Hmm.
I had to shift into principle and say I'm catch the principle and not necessarily the language or the words.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a,
There's enough different people teaching New Thought, which is a very simple philosophy, that you can jump around and find one that fits. You know, you like the flavor of it, and you can also change. There are some times where Myrtle Fillmore was exactly right, and sometimes it's Emma Curtis Hopkins, and sometimes it's Deepak Chopra, and they're all saying the same thing from different directions, or Eckhart Tolle. And whatever's resonating, whatever's working for you, whatever's inspiring you to have that next deeper understanding, great. Great. As we were talking before about things don't happen instantaneously, and I told you that I was going to talk about the Panama Canal.
yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, I read a book about the building of the Panama Canal, and they had tried doing it and were failing miserably. So when the guy who actually wound up building the canal got there, the first thing they had to do was eliminate malaria, because the mosquitoes there were basically making the workers get sick, so they couldn't dig the canal. And creating the Panama Canal was no small undertaking. But now, when you mention the Panama Canal, everybody knows where it is. Everybody knows what it does. Yeah, you can, in the middle of the Central America, you can sail a boat from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and it's no big deal. Well, it took a while from the time that somebody had the idea, oh, this could be done, until it was done, and now it's done. And then, and now we get to have conversations about, is that a good idea, and why are there saltwater fish in the freshwater lakes in Central America because they're coming in from the canal. It's a different situation. But it was that vision, that intention, and that persistence. And was it a miracle? In a lot of ways, it is a miracle.
Yeah, so it's everything's a miracle or not a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I think I like that. You just have to not give up because it's not a Walt Disney miracle, although Walt Disney deserves more credit in his New Thought way of doing things or speaking than he gets. But when you think of miracles, you think of the Walt Disney abracadabra. Here it comes, and it might not be that way, but it's still working.
Yeah. Tinkerbell's wand. That'd be nice. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the. Be nice though, I guess, but then there
Maybe.
would be no principle involved for you to depend on.
There would still be principle involved. We'd just be using it in a different way. If magic, like is in the Harry Potter stories, were actually loose in the world, then we would probably have a Voldemort. So it just changes the context.
Okay, I'm not as familiar with that.
Okay,
I'm one of the
it's a
few
bad
people
guy
on
with a
the-
magic wand.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm probably one of the few people on the planet who didn't relate to that. I didn't get it.
Oh, well, you were
Was it-
living your own magical story.
That is true.
That
That's
works.
very true.
And sometimes things that seem like they're inevitable, good things that you can't wait for them to finally happen, or bad things you just know that they're going to happen. And in either case, we could be mistaken. So there's a big thing going on in Philadelphia. This has been over the course of years. They've been talking about demolishing part of Chinatown in Center City, Philadelphia, so they can put up a basketball arena. because the 76ers are getting tired of playing in South Philly and they wanted to be in the middle of the city. And, the sports folks are thinking, this will be great. And the people who are invested in Chinatown being there are thinking, no, we don't need this. That's unnecessary. You don't need to ruin another neighborhood for this. And the controversy has been back and forth, and the city council finally paved the way for this to happen. And then over the weekend, the Sixers decided that they're going to renew their lease in South Philly, and they don't want a stadium or an arena in Center City, Philadelphia. It's like, well, that was a lot of hand-wringing for nothing.
Yeah. I hadn't heard about that, and because I'm from Philly, I still sometimes really feel like Philly is, I feel an emotional tie to it.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. But then some things happen and you're thinking, come on, this is not really happening, is it? That was an odd thing.
Yeah.
But I get your point.
Yeah.
I get your point.
And people who were, praying that, to preserve the heritage in the neighborhood in Center City that would be ruined by an arena, and, watching their hopes be dashed and their protests be ignored, and city council go ahead and steamroll over them. And that's, undoubtedly can shake a lot of people's belief. And then suddenly it's different. So, and there is an unexpected miracle.
Yeah, and while you were talking about it, I'm thinking, oh, well, where am I going to go? Where's Chinatown going to be? I'm going to Chinatown all my life. I mean, I love the Sixers, but, can y'all find someplace else?
Well, they have someplace else. So, yeah, and it turns out they're going to stay there.
Okay. Miracles happen.
Miracles. Yep. Miracles. Suddenly miracles. Let's take another break, and when we conclude, we will have a practical prayer on miracles happening.
Yeah.
Are you ready to get results? Now, that's not a rhetorical question. Are you ready to get results? RUR2GR. That's actually the abbreviation for the steps in a practical prayer: recognition, unification, realization, gratitude, and release, with a couple of extra steps in there in case some doubt creeps in along the way. RUR2GR. This class is about the prayer technique that's common to all of the spiritual practices and religions in the most effective prayers that they have. And by effective, I mean that the prayer works. It actually creates a change in the experience of the person doing the prayer. It gets a result. We're going to begin with theory, and then we're going to take it into practice. By the end of the class, you will have your very own practical prayer that will help create transformation in your life.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
We've been talking about the interesting or the fascinating nature of miracles. And that either everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle, and the miracles that happen in the moment have actually maybe been cooking for an awfully long time. So we're going to do a prayer that lets us set the stage for a miracle. Because the New Thought teaching tells us that there is only God. There is only the divine. There is only the one creative power that creates everything. And it creates by sharing itself as its creation. So every planet, every person, everything is that one. And that includes each of us. So what we are doing is we are co-creators in this creative universe. And to whatever extent miracles are happening, we are participating in the creation of those miracles. So this prayer, this practical prayer, is about setting the stage for a miracle. The transformation happens in consciousness. So when we are opening ourselves to a miracle, and it can be a specific miracle that we're looking to have something change in our life, or just to have those delightful, miraculous events continue to unfold in our life, it's the same thing. So we're going to set the stage for miracles to be happening. So I invite you, as it's comfortable, turn away from the stuff that's going on in the world around you. Everything that we are experiencing is something that has already happened. Maybe it's something that's happening now, but we're in the midst of it having come to pass. And we don't necessarily know what's happening next. And we have an understanding of what's happened in the past, but we don't necessarily know the nuance and the details and what it means or what else those experiences and that activity has brought in as a possibility. So as we turn our attention to that infinite creative power, that one divine presence, that one limitless love that shares itself as all of its creation, that shares itself as each of us, and as every person everywhere, as every particle that exists, as every planet in orbit around every star, as every galaxy, it is all that one divine presence taking its own particular form. All of that stuff. 14.2 billion years or 6,000 years in the making, depending on which story you like to tell. All of it continuing to unfold and evolve and reveal and express in new and different ways. So as that newness shows up in our life, it is completely possible that that newness has been underway for a long time. So as we set the intention, as we open the invitation for that newness to unfold in a way that is harmonious and delightful and uplifting and what we might describe as miraculous, that infinite creative power that creates everything is creating our next experiences with that tone and flavor of the miraculous. Good and more good and more good unfolding for each of us. And there's no limit to it. There's no reason that it can't be as good as we can possibly imagine and even better. And in every area of our life. Having prosperity doesn't mean that we have to give up on health. Having a loving relationship doesn't mean that we have to give up our creativity. Good and more good and more good, pressed down and overflowing, available to each of us and all of us in our own way. That good is available. And that's the good I'm claiming, in a way that brings uplift and delight and joy. Those happy coincidences, those miraculous experiences for each one within the sound of my voice. This is love unfolding, and for this I am deeply grateful. The feeling of thanks for the good that's unfolding, for the willingness of each one to suspend disbelief and to participate in this creative process, for the opportunity to speak this word of intention into that same creative law that creates everything. With gratitude for all this good, I speak this word, I let it go, and I know that this is already so. And so I let it be. And so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com.
be-the-light.com.
Where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
Practical Prayer Podcast. Post-show, underway now. It was a fun episode. Great topic.
I think so. It started out with miracles and ended up with prayer. I don't mean ended up with a prayer, but it ended up with the juxtaposition of prayer and miracles. To me, it's just like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The prayer is what we do, and the miracle is how it gets answered. And we label it as a miracle if we didn't expect it.
Yeah.
Or if we're surprised by the timing or the velocity. When the prayers are answered and they're answered big and they're answered quick, we go, whoa, that's that, whoa.
I think I'm always amazed at the timing. And let me clarify, this doesn't seem to be quick. When it shows up like, did I pray for this? Oh yeah, okay. Probably back in the 90s. So I'm trying to adjust my thoughts so I can speed it up a little bit.
And some things show up immediately, and if they start not, then pray for great parking spaces or green lights. I mean, I got to the point where I've been praying for green lights, and I was in that mode that I remember specifically driving in my car saying, I got to grab something out of the glove compartment, and I can't, I'll do it at the next red light. And it took forever to get to a red light. Oh my God. I kept on coming up to, okay, I'm going to reach for it now, and the light had changed green before I got to it.
The parking space and green light thing, not a problem at all. Yeah. Not a problem. Maybe because it's just so rooted in my head that, this is going to happen when I leave. I'm not going to worry about it. And it flows, right? But there's some other things I'm thinking, you better go back and take a second look at the principles. Maybe you're skipping something because it's taking a little bit. Things are showing up, but they're a little late. Maybe.
Back in the good old days when we used to teach classes in person in Center City, one of my students lived not far away from me, so we would carpool to the classes together. And she'd spent a lot of time near St. Joe's University, and there's an intersection at City Line Avenue and Cardinal. And on the way home, I would come up Cardinal and turn at City Line. And she said, I never go this way because this light takes forever. And I said, well, let's just do a prayer that when we get to this intersection, that the light is green on Cardinal. And every time we drove home from class, I would go that way, and the light would turn green immediately. And then both of us noticed that as we were driving the other way on City Line Avenue, we'd get a red light there because it was green on Cardinal. It's like, oops.
Okay. Yeah. Prayer works. That's all I know.
Prayer works. And as we set the intention, and it's the more we get to the flavor and the texture of it, the less about the specifics, the more powerful it winds up being and the more subtle it gets to be.
And absent of the worry and the frustration about it. And that's another episode because that's all about your book and courses. But it works, period. So if something is taking a long time, aside from maybe sometimes I might forget it, which is a good thing too, because I'm not meddling in it and trying to make things happen. But it's good for a lot of reasons, because there are things happening. Frustration is not there. My hands are out of it, and I'm usually off planning something else anyway. So it always ends up fun for me because then I got to figure out, well, now which one do I want to do, or can I make these things go together? So, right. Yeah. Perfect.
Well, Carol, thank you as always. Thank you to everybody who is watching on New Thought Media Network and watching the recordings. If you want to send a comment our way, then you can go to the website at bethelight.com, just like it says down there, be-the-light.com. We will respond to inquiries that are made through the little Contact Us button there. And thank you again, as always, Carol. What a fun episode.
Bye.
See you next week.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.